Starting in 3, 2.
Good evening, everyone. So tonight I'm going to talk about a little bit about Jesus being arrested, but I'm going to focus more on his trial. And what led me to do this is not too long ago I was sitting down at a table with a non-believer, and he was kind of questioning me about my beliefs. I said, I don't force my beliefs on you. I said, I don't need to do that. My actions speak louder than my words do. So by me showing him love, kind of threw him off. And this is kind of how Jesus is during his trial. But let's start off in Mark 14:43. Just as he was speaking, Judas, one of the 12, appeared. With him was a crowd armed with swords and clubs, sent from the chief priests, the teachers of the law, and the elders. Now, we all have a Judas somewhere in our lives. We don't know it. But the minute we start talking about Jesus, about the Bible, then that person may not say something then, but they'll go get their friends, and then they come and attack you. So when that happens, what are you going to do? Are you going to let one of your friends be like Peter? In verse 47, then one of those standing near drew his sword and struck the servant of the high priest, cutting off his ear. Granted, you may not have a sword, but you have the Bible. And this Bible is our sword. Are you going to use it to react? Are you going to use it to try to defend, try to judge that person for attacking you? Or are you going to let your actions speak louder? And say, you have your beliefs, I have mine, but I still love you. Because that's what we're called to do. We're called to love one another. Personal experience. My wife's best friend is a non-believer. And she has tried, but she still cannot understand for the life of her how we can love somebody. When they have done us wrong. In case in point, every day Jesus was, in verse 49, he says, every day I was with you, teaching in the temple courts, and you did not arrest me. But the scriptures must be fulfilled. Then in verse 50, then everyone deserted him and fled. So when you're being tested with your friends, with your family, whoever you're talking with, are y'all going to stay there and help fight, or are y'all going to run? I know me and my friends, we'd sit there and fight we'd sit there and fight and help each other in the battle. But we're not going to judge. It's not what we do. We're going to show our love. We're going to use this for what it means. Because here's the thing. What are you going to do when you're challenged about your beliefs? But remember, Jesus was also challenged by all during his arrest. And here it says in verse 53, they took Jesus to the high priest, and all the chief priests, the elders, and the teachers of the law came together. Verse 55, the chief priests and the whole Sanhedrin were looking for evidence against Jesus, so that they could put him to death, but they did not find any. Many testified falsely against him, but their statements did not agree. How many times have we run into people where they challenged us? It may just not be one person, be 5 of them. But when you listen to those people, listen closely, because I guarantee you their statements are going to be different from the next person. And their statements are going to be false. Because they're not from here. Because they want to go by off maybe what a false teacher said. Maybe they want to go off by somebody that was hurt by the church and use the words from the Bible to make themselves look better and make what Jesus said look bad. So what are you going to do? Are you going to sit there and judge them? Are you going to stand there and argue with them? Because the minute you argue with them, you're no better. You're no better than they are. Because that's what they want. That's what the priest wanted when they put Jesus on trial. They wanted him to argue. They wanted him at their level so they could say that they were better than him. They even, in verse 63, the high priest tore his clothes. Why do we need more witnesses, he asked. You have heard the blasphemy. What do you think? Let me go back one. Verse 62. Actually, let me go back further than that. Verse 60. Then the high priest stood up before them, asked Jesus, you're not going to answer. What is the testimony that these men are bringing against you? But Jesus remained silent and gave no answer. And again the high priest asked him, are you the Messiah, the Son of the Blessed One? Verse 62. I am, said Jesus. And you will also see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the Mighty One and coming on the clouds of heaven. So we need, there's going to come a time when, yes, we are going to be with Jesus in heaven. But what's the path you're going to get there? Are you going to argue? Or are you going to sit there and be like the person that you're arguing with? Or are you going to be quiet, let your actions speak, and love on that person? Because loving on somebody is going to get them to change a whole lot more than your words. I know, because we're in that place right now with my wife's best friend. I can see her slowly coming around. She may not admit it. She may still fight it. But the love that we show her is that same love that Jesus shows us. Chapter 15. Verse 1. Very early in the morning, the chief priests with the elders, the teachers of the law, and the whole Sanhedrin made their plans. So they bound Jesus, led him away, and handed him over to Pilate. Verse 2. Are you the king of the Jews? Asked Pilate. You have said so, Jesus replied. The chief priests accused him of many things. So again Pilate asked him, aren't you going to answer? See how many things they are accusing you of. But Jesus still made no reply, and Pilate was amazed. Jesus didn't need to say anything. Jesus let his beliefs, the miracles that he performed before the arrest, to speak for who he is. He knew where he was going, but he also knew why he had to be arrested and why he had to be put on trial. For us. So that way we have an example to live by when we are being challenged, when we are being prosecuted. And it's still, and again, we're still being arrested today. You may not look at it, but I was looking online earlier today, and as of last year, Denmark was the leadership in Denmark was having preachers submit their sermons before the sermon was given, so they can make sure that they could change what needed to be said, so that way they don't hurt people's feelings. Sorry for you, but we're not here to teach what the law wants. We're here to teach and study and talk about what God has given us to talk about. So basically, what I'm saying is when we as Christians are confronted by our adversary, are you going to advocate for Jesus, or are you going to hide behind the law? Mayor in Houston tried to get us to hide behind the law. State of Georgia tried to get priests to hide behind the law, because those places wanted them to turn in their sermon so they can make sure that they're not offending anybody. Sorry, but God tells us how to live. God tells us what to believe. You know, Chick-fil-A is still being prosecuted today because they don't want to, not that they don't want to, but they can't and they won't cater to certain functions. And that's okay, because God tells us what we need to practice. And we know that it is in their beliefs to not conform to the law, to the world. Just like in Jesus being arrested, they wanted him to conform to the world, and he said, he didn't have to say anything, but he knew that he wasn't going to, and that's why it infuriated the priest, because they knew they couldn't change him. Thank you, and y'all have a good night.
12 minutes, 23 seconds.
Huh?
12:23.
Okay. How was it? Like,
See, that was good because you used